Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of I Don't Believe in Side Quests. I'm Gabe.
And I'm Lauren.
And happy Easter. Hope everybody had a good Easter or a good weekend. I think it warmed up pretty much for everyone across the country. So welcome, I think, to spring officially.
I know. It was super gross all weekend for us. It was just gray, torrential downpour. It's finally like blue skies again. But I was cat sitting for my neighbor's cats just like Thursday through Sunday. And so usually they like to go outside, but it was so gross and so rainy that I was just like, I don't want to stand out there for 2 hours waiting for them to want to come back inside because I can't just like leave them out there unattended. So I was just like, no, I'm not doing it. which they have been asked not to like just let the cats roam. So we were also just kind of experimenting, just like not letting them outside and seeing how they would react and deal with it. And the mom cat is the one who gets like the most irritated about it. The kids are fine. And then like 3 hours before my neighbor was coming home, we couldn't find one of the cats. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I accidentally let him out this morning when I was leaving? I was just losing my mind because he's never just hidden for a long time before. And so I'm in there. We're cutting down her Christmas tree that is still up because my husband has been like, that is a fire hazard. Like our entire apartment building is going to go up in flames. So he's been like stressed about it. And I was on a call with my neighbor the last night that I was over there where she was on speakerphone and we were just like having a conversation just so the cats could like hear her voice and know she like wasn't dead. But anyway, so they like all came into the room that I and the phone were in and they all just like fell asleep in just various areas around the phone. And it was so cute. But I was just like, I say this with love. Are you emotionally attached to this tree or can we remove it? She was like, yes. So it was like one of those like mental blocks where she was just like, I should get rid of it, but I don't really know how to get rid of it. And I'm not like, and she like had a bit of back problem from doing stuff with it earlier. So she is just something that just, she knew she needed to get rid of it, but she just hadn't done it. And I was like, great.
It's a lot of work.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
It was a small tree, but totally. I was just like, we will get it out of your house before you come home. Don't worry about it. Like, we'll saw it up into little bits. We'll clear up all the little branch. Like, when you come home, it will be gone. And so she came home and she like got to vacuum all of the little bits that it was left over. And now she just like has this empty space in her house that she can like do stuff with. Anyway, she's delighted. So
that's awesome. That's nice to you. That's
my
really
husband
sweet.
is delighted, and so it's all good.
Like he's like, that's a fire hazard for the entire building. Mm-hmm. You're endangering all of us. It needs to go.
So that's what I did all weekend. We celebrated my grandma. Well, my grandma's turning 94 on Friday. And so we always do like a combo Easter and grandma's birthday because they're always right around the same time. So we went down and did that on Saturday. And again, it was just pouring rain. So no one was out driving. Usually I feel like on Easter Sundays when people like have the nice cars and do the little driving around and, you know, have the top off, whatever. And this time, no. Everyone was like hunkered down.
It was just warm. It was warm and sunny where we were. I mean, 50s, but that's really warm here.
Oh, yeah.
So
that counts.
It was nice. A lot of the snow has finally melted.
But you had a good Easter?
Yeah, it was a good Easter. We did, we talked about, didn't yours get changed from dinner to breakfast or something, or lunch, and ours got changed to lunch too? Yeah, we had a lot of quiche. What?
I love quiche. We didn't have quiche.
Too. It was really good.
I would have loved a brunch.
Like, you kind of get the breakfast taste, but it's definitely like a heartier lunch or like dinner meal, so you don't feel
like quiche any time of day.
It's so good.
I think that's what I'll do tonight. Maybe I'll just make a quiche.
I would. It's freaking phenomenal.
I don't think I have milk.
Oh. How do you just not have milk? What's wrong with you?
I don't put milk in anything. Wow. Like, unless I'm specifically, like, baking or cooking with it. Like, I don't just habitually have milk. Or if I do, it's like oat milk or almond milk or something, and it's probably been opened for months on end. So it's just taking up space in my fridge at this point.
A glass a day keeps the doctor away. I don't drink that much milk, but I drink quite a bit of milk.
My husband loves milk.
Why doesn't
we don't have it very often, but every once in a while he's just like, could go for a glass of milk. Oh my gosh, my sister's husband, who just started listening to the pod, so shout out to Colin.
Yikes.
His college drink freshman year when he was at like peak chaos.
Yeah.
Maybe not freshman year. It must have been later. But was milk and vodka, and he'd call it mice because it'd be on ice. So it'd be milk on ice, but then you'd like throw in a shot of vodka. Anyway, we will not let him live that down because that is horrific.
I feel like if you want like some creamy alcohol, why not just have some like Kahlua?
Yeah, or Bailey. I don't know. So bizarre. I think it was just like broke college kid stuff, though, of just like, what do you have? Milk, and you've got ice, and you've got vodka. All right, let's.
No, that's still not even excusable or normal. Like, it's one thing if like maybe you need a chaser, right? And you're like, that's all you have. But like mixing it, like, was he actually mixing it? No, that's disgusting. That's just straight up disgusting. Because then the flavors are just like co-inhabiting a glass and then in your mouth together. Like, that's gross. If the milk's the chaser, you get one flavor, and then for the most part, you get its own separate flavor. I'm sorry.
Anything else you want to hit?
No, that's about all. I could talk about it. Maybe I'll talk about it. So last Thursday, I had a doctor's appointment to get. I'm sorry, I have Esports on my other monitor while we happen to be talking about to get another.
What are you watching?
It's Valorant. It's Valorant Esports. Which I think you have an article about it, but yours is about the VCT game. Anyways, we'll get to that.
Sorry, your doctor's appointment.
That's okay. To get another like opinion on my ankle or like thoughts on my ankle, see if there's anything we could do. But it's not like a traditional doctor's. It's called regenerative medicine, or like that's what they do.
Okay.
And I didn't really know anything about it. I was like, it could be, I don't know. I had no idea what it was when my dad made the appointment and brought me in. So he knew what it all was. And he was like, he said to me, he was like, if the stem cells are from babies, we're not doing it. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? What are you bringing me to? It's like, I'm just telling you. And I was like, okay, well, I don't think I want a baby in my ankle anyways. So I guess we're on the same page. And like we were talking to them. And granted, I mean, that's when they used to do stem cell stuff way back in the original. That is how they did it. But I think we could safely say we're a little more advanced now. And so what they did is they took my blood, my life source, and they, sorry, my very essence of being, and they spun it around in a centrifuge and like pulled the plasma out of it. Because that's where like all of your like healing stuff is. At least for this first round, that's how it works. And then they took it and they put it in my ankle like a cortisone shot. So they injected some directly into my ankle, and they put some kind of around the outside where I have a lot of swelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because my issue is with my ankle is it's always inflamed. It's always really swollen. It's always really big. So it's constantly dealing with, trauma and stuff and just degrading. And you can only get 2 ankle replacements probably in your whole life, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And they only last 10 years. And he's like, and I can't get more cortisone shots because my first surgery, they had to do so much stuff that cortisone shots are too caustic to do anymore after the 2 I've had. So he's like, anyways, basically the hope is that this will help save my ankle a little longer. So far, it hasn't done anything. My ankle is more massive than it usually is because it isn't absorbing any of the stuff they shot into my ankle. And it just hurts like a bitch. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, no. So what is the process of the regenerative?
I was just there. From my understanding, if I understand what they're doing right, is like they're taking my body's ability to heal itself, right? Like they're taking it and then moving it in like high dosage to where I need it. Essentially, I think is my understanding of what's happening, right? Because inflammation is your body saying something's wrong and and maybe not responding how it should to it, but it's responding, right? And so I'm too tired and not smart enough to tell you anything more.
Okay. But your body heals itself.
Yes.
With some science jiggery pokery.
I felt like I was in a sci-fi movie, to be honest, when they were like, we're going to take you and then give you back to you. And I was like,
okay.
All right, if you say so. Well, he was like, I expect your ankles to start feeling better in a few days, especially because I'm young. I'm currently their youngest patient. I don't know if ever, but usually they have older people and then older athletes who've, worn out whatever joint. And I was like, oh yeah, my young body so's got this. I'm sorry. I have a lot of sarcasm because I'm afraid to be hopeful that it'll work. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know, especially when we're at Tuesday, right? We're 2 days from a week and it's worse than before they injected me. So we'll see. And then next Thursday, they do it again, but they take a little bit different stuff from my blood. So I don't know. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Well, we will cross our fingers for you that that works. Either this week's stuff or next week's stuff or whatever.
Or none of it. It's a 5 course treatment over 6 months. So I think there's 4 treatments in a matter of like 3 months, and then you wait 3 months, and then they do another one. I know at some point they take a high concentration of a certain protein out of your blood, and that's to like coat everything. You know what? Next time I'll bring the packet. I'll just bring the packet of information. Okay? How about that? Because like after the appointment, I was like, okay, I can recite everything this man told me. Almost a week later, I'm kind of like, I just showed up.
Well, just bring him on the pod, and I'll just be able to ask him all of my little questions that I want. That's
fair. I mean, you give me the list, and I'll bring it next week, and then I'll tell you.
So that's all about us, but we wanted to touch on what newly came out from Her Interactive. They posted another puzzle for fans to solve on their socials, and it was like a little word puzzle. And our fave, Board Gaming Mama, went on Twitch and she and her community solved it. So it said, "Thanks for sleuthing along, but some of your theories are wrong. There is more to the trivia, so should you ponder all night, do stay awake, or you might encounter a fright. Take a page from Chores Past and mix up more clues. We have a new case and no time to lose." So, people were trying to like find little hints and whatever in all of the trivia questions that were in the original newsletter that went live on April Fool's Day. And apparently not everyone or Her Interactive didn't see people finding all of the things that they hid in the trivia. Take a page from Chores Past and mix up more clues makes it sound like...
Yeah, what is Chores Past? What is chores? Like chores, like you have to go clean? Or like, what do they mean by that?
I was thinking like chore list in Nancy Drew games, like White Wolf of Icicle Creek, where you have to do the cooking and you have to do the cleaning, and or from Shadow Ranch.
The manual labor you have to do before you can do anything else.
Hashtag pay Nancy. Yes, yes. Or from Shadow Ranch, where you have that whole chores list and you have to mix up a cake. There are just a variety of games where you do have to do like household or farm chores or whatever to satisfy like why you're there, and then kind of adjacently you solve the mystery. So I'm excited they are handing out new puzzles to keep people involved and invested. Like Her Interactive will typically post word scrambles or trivia questions or something on their socials. That's kind of the low maintenance social posting that they do when they're not just highlighting a fan artwork or something like that. So having them create this word jumbly puzzle that has this genuine response to what's the conversation's been, that's very exciting for me. I'm excited that they are, you know, getting involved and being proactive. It's kind of reactive, but at the same time, it's proactive. Another good friend of ours, Tina Balducci, who is a big fan of Nancy Drew, but is also a professional software developer. She poked around in the coding on the Her Interactive webpage for the new Nancy Drew mystery, currently untitled, and ran into the following message hidden in the code. So you're snooping the code, sleuth. Congrats for finding this. You're quite the snooper. We'd love to tell you more, but it's against NDA, so you'll have to wait for our planned releases. Trust us, we'd love to chat and share, but this mystery must stay just that until all is revealed. Now, I don't know if this code maybe has been in there for a long time, and so the planned releases, the plural on releases, is just like, if you're poking around in the code because you're trying to find out more about the next game, like, you won't be able to find it. I don't know how long ago this code was put in, whether it was fairly recent, which genuinely would be surprising because they don't have any in-house coders. So, but I also don't know when they update this page, because if this is a brand new page, and anyway, it depends on where they got the code, when the code was written. But I think that's fun of Her Interactive to have put that in there, especially since they're actively trying to encourage kids and young adults to be looking into coding and doing coding pieces. So it's fun they hid that little Easter egg in there for us.
I just like that I feel like it seems like making more of an effort than they have been in the past.
Yeah, their marketing team is working overtime at this point because based on the marketing stuff they've been doing in the past, there's no way they were full-time people working on it. So they were interns or part-time or whatever. And now it seems like they are having, again, more dedication to what's actually going on.
I hope that means good things for the game that's going to come. Like, I hope that means, I don't know. I just hope it's better than Salem. I guess that's all that I can really hope.
I just would be surprised given all of the feedback, because if this game doesn't do well, I mean, Her Interactive, unless they are bought out by some bigger company, if this game had the reaction that Salem had from the community, Her Interactive would be done.
I think so.
Right? There would just truly be no path forward if they showed people that they had learned nothing, taken no feedback into account when making a brand new game. If it came back with similar problems or was equally not, and it will never live up to what the community is going to feel. There is no Nancy Drew game that the community together loves. There is no Nancy Drew game that everyone says, yep, this is truly the best. Maybe Treasure in the Royal Tower. But there is basically no consensus.
There's no consensus, but I think there's a handful that like everyone agrees is in the top.
Yeah.
I feel like there could be agreed upon top 5, maybe not the order, but I think there's definitely a handful that everyone were like, that's hands down some of the best. Treasure in the Royal Tower is really good. It's a good one. I feel like Blackmore Manor is just a classic.
Yeah. I know some people don't like it because there's plenty of it that is so not intuitive.
Yeah, that's fair.
So for first timers or second timers or anyone who's still trying to, bumble their way through
realistically, how intuitive would the whole mystery ever really be? Just kid.
It's a miracle that Nancy figured it out.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, this game has so much riding on it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not involved because that is so stressful.
Well, but and it doesn't have to be the best Nancy Drew game to ever come out. It just has to be better. Honestly, kind of quite a bit better than Salem. It has to be quite a bit better than Salem, but it doesn't have to be the best. I don't think people would freak out if it's not the best Nancy Drew game to ever come out. You know what I mean? But just more than what Salem was.
Yeah. I think Salem's... I think if they maintain their cohesiveness, because that was the biggest problem with Salem, is that the story, there were so many things going on, because every single piece of it was done by a different group, and because it was written and rewritten as different groups and designers and coders came and went, because there was no consistency in the people who were working on it.
Yeah.
There were so many pieces that I really enjoyed. There were a lot of puzzles that had movability and capabilities that we had never been able to have before that I really enjoyed. The puzzles at the end of the game, they were different, they were new, they were exciting. I wanted to see how different pieces fit together. I had to use different parts of my brain that I otherwise would have to, the use of space to move around. I loved that. I thought that was so so cool, so exciting. And I just think if they have a more consistent vision and a more concise, better tailored storyline,
Yeah.
they'll be fine.
I will say I felt like Salem was more linear than any other Nancy Drew game before it, and that was sad. So I feel like that's a big thing to think about too.
Yeah.
But I think that was also why Salem was so disappointing though, because like you said, there are so many new cool things that had never been done before, but then for it just to not be executed properly, it was like...
Yeah. There's a reason you have to have a task list in all of the other Nancy Drew games, because at any given point, there are like 6 different things you could be doing, whether they were kind of mini games, or whether they were talking to this person, or whether they were solving this clue, or whether you could do all of these things. And yeah, Midnight in Salem was very much, you have to do this, and then you have to go and do this, and then you have to go and do this. And so you can't just say, you know, I'm tired of trying to figure out what's going on with this. I'm going to go do this instead. The doing this instead was, you know, mixing up one of the potions at Lauren's apothecary shop that you didn't have to, or like didn't give you any, you know, you get 3 frogs that then you can go play this game. Like the extra pieces in there that are just added in for like fun or color or whatever, those were missing. And so there weren't anything that you could go and kind of entertain yourself with to take a break from trying to solve the true story.
Well, and like when you could take a break, sometimes that's where something finally clicked in your brain, was because you'd walked away to go do something else, to go work on something else, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, duh.
Right.
And you just like didn't get that. You were just, it was just like beating your head constantly against a brick wall. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but
can't do anything else until you've solved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think with just a couple tweaks, Salem, it would have been different, which still would have been upsetting for the community, but it would have been okay. Like, it would have been fine. There were just a few, and again, that's I'm hoping that they're listening to the community and that they've heard, you know, what a lot of the complaints were, and went in and did some more research to really understand the pieces of the game that like clicked in and that made the games really, really enjoyable and iconic to play, figured out that formula, and then figured out ways to adjust the formula, modernize the formula, kind of, you know, migrate things around, but keep the components in place, and then just modernize, you know, the engine behind it and so on. So our main topic today is esports, and specifically women in esports. So there are a lot of articles about various women in esports and different players, and a lot of different teams or companies are coming up with specifically female teams because they can see the writing on the wall and see that that market is just growing bigger and bigger. I was looking at an article on ES
That's
Chart.
not why they're doing it. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because the issue is that esports has always been predominantly male. I think for a long time, like, females didn't... Well, there's probably a while where there was none, and then they didn't even make a percentage, and now I think we're maybe 5%. And the problem is that, like, the reason they have started to... So it started to come up as a topic of, like, how do we get women into esports? And there's been 2 approaches to it. There's one part that says it should be, you know, fully mixed, fully integrated, We should be getting females onto the teams. Then there's the other part that is like, well, what if we just make a separate competition for women? So having the men and the women, which is, I think one of the articles you saw was the VCT Game Changers program, right? And that's for Valorant, esports. And that's so the women have their own separate league. And it's a little more diverse than that. They have women and like trans and like a little like a variation. It's not just maybe solely what you'd stereotypically think for women, if that makes sense, right? It's like a more broad, but it's focused on women and highlighting women. And so there's this constant argument of how do we get more women in? Because when you don't see women in esports, girls don't think I could go do that, right? You don't see the representation. You don't see someone that you relate to or identify with. So you're not like, oh, that's a job I could go do, right? That's something I could go do. And part of it also too is just in the esports industry itself is predominantly male. You know, like casters and all of that were mostly male. I would say casters now are more half and half. I watch more of the Valorant esports than some of the other esports. So like Valorant, I know for sure the casters, regardless of which division it is pretty equal to male and female.
I know in CSGO, there are like a couple women that cast for a lot of different things to be the 1 woman, 2 men trio.
Yeah. Yep. And honestly, the small amounts of like Rainbow Six Siege esports I've watched, I don't even think I've ever seen a woman caster there. COD, I don't really know. I haven't watched a lot of that. League, I think I've seen pretty half and half, but I mean, League and Valorant are both Riot games, so there is that.
So why is it so hard for women to break into the esports teams? Because the teams are not, like, it's not in the rules that they have to be all men, right? So
No,
it's just...
No, I don't think so.
Right.
No, it's not. Honestly, I don't really know if there is an exact answer. I mean, part of the problem is like you could say, like, we could start at home, right? At home, parents are always like, for a long time, and it still happens now, you know, gaming is for boys, right? There's the mindset that gaming is for boys, and it's like shameful if you're a girl gamer, right? It's just something we've talked about in the past. So they've got that. You've got where like you're not seeing role models to look up to. You're not seeing people you identify with. So then there's all these girls not even thinking about it as an option. You have, I mean, the like harassment side of it, where, you know, you're going to deal with, as a female, you deal with swatting, doxing, flaming, griefing, botting, hate speech, you know, the voice chat abuse. And like even the women who have broken into it, right, and are in the esports, they constantly get told, you know, like they're cheaters, or a male gamer's playing for them, or like people won't try as hard because it's just a girl gamer, or they'll just kind of be like, whatever, you know what I mean? And I don't know.
Okay. So it's not a welcoming environment.
Yes.
And so they're less likely to,
I think you get dissuaded,
to kind of really publicly do it all the time, because it's exhausting. If every single time you're playing a match, And if you don't have your voice, is that voice alterer, voice changer, so that if you do sound like a woman and you're trying to play matches, and every single time you're playing, there's at least one guy in the group who is harassing you or just talking down to you or being unkind or inappropriate or whatever, if every single time you try to do something, that is the reaction you get, yeah, totally understandable why people would say, all right, well, I just want to play with other women or people who I know or people who I know won't act that way.
Yeah. Well, and why would you want to put in the grind? I mean, why would you want to have to keep overcoming that? Because so many, right, they just don't talk if they don't have to. Or, yeah, like you try and get a voice changer or something. They try and pick neutral avatars, have neutral names. So, like, and make it as hard as possible to be picked out as a female, because you just know you're going to get met with, I hope someone R-words you. I would R-word you if I was there, or like the C word, or you're a fat bitch, or shouldn't you be in the kitchen, or go back to your cooking classes, or like so many things. And then when you do have success, it's so undermined and like, whatever, like, okay, cool, guess you did it, wow, you know, like it's not celebrated. And
yeah, I think I was initially kind of like, well, I don't think we should have, women only team, like we should create separate teams and areas for women to compete separate from men. I've changed my mind on that, not because I think the women are playing at a different level, but I totally support them saying, all right, well, screw that. I'm not going to go into that. And I want to have a community of non-harassment and just play with that and compete against people who are not going to harass me. And I support that 100%.
See, I would say is that I don't even think it's necessarily the women choosing that. I don't think it's women saying they want that. That's just what the organizations are trying to do. That's what the organizations think the best way to start trying to get recognition for women is. I don't know either way which the women in general lean. That's just kind of what they get. I would argue that I don't think there should be separation. I think that just furthers the issues. I mean, it adds, I feel like, substance to the fact that, well, I don't know. I don't think it should be separate. If you wanted to do like a one-off every now and then separate to highlight more, sure, I get that. But to have totally separate teams when they don't need to be, you know what I mean? It's not like girls are playing at a disadvantage. It's not like real sports where you're having the physical body chemistry of a male and the physical body chemistry of a female going up against each other. Whereas in that sense, for a lot of sports, I think it makes sense that they're separate. I mean, not to offend anybody, but just like the science behind it, men are typically a lot stronger than women. Not that women can't be stronger, but just because, they have so much testosterone, and testosterone is what builds your muscles and all of that. And like, it's just, that I get. But esports, there's nothing that's separating them. There's no advantage that males have over females. It's just, I just think it's silly. I just think it's all silly. I did also want to note, though, that I find this so fascinating that like even when we're out of sports, there's still drug issues. And so there's a huge yeah, right? There's a huge issue in esports. There's the pressure to use amphetamine-based prescription drugs, such as Adderall, because it, enhances your performance, it enhances your focus. And it's just like you just can't escape it, I guess. I mean, it's not steroids, but it's still just like, why?
It's steroids for your brain.
It is. And it's
short-term steroids. Just a little jolt. Get you racking and rolling.
But honestly, that's probably another thing that stops women from joining too. Like, it's just like another thing on top of all of the other obnoxious obstacles you have to face. Like, why would you bother?
Why do you think companies that have programs where there is a lot of voice chat harassment and whatnot of female gamers, why do you think there has not been clearly enough work to ban people or put them in timeout if there is, usually clear evidence of, yes, this person is saying inappropriate things to this person? And I know there can be like blocks on typing and whatnot, so they can say, well, these words aren't allowed, whatever. But there are, recordings of people, and you can see their gamer tag and see that, yes, it was them who was saying that. And I guess I don't know why the harassment is so rampant in all of these communities.
Well, first I will say, like you said, right, there can be bans, there can be timeouts, there can be whatever, right? So since we're talking about Valorant recently added, I think towards the end of last year, where they were finally actually recording the audio. I think it's only when you talk in game. I mean, it's not just like sitting there recording everything you do, right? But that way, right, they could verify when someone reports comms abuse, they can go back and there's the recording and they can do that. I know this is true in Siege, and I know this is true in Valorant. I think this is also true. No, it is true in COD. I don't know about CSGO and stuff, but they can time you out from voice. They can time you out from typing, where like you can still play, but because of your harassment or saying inappropriate words or whatever, you no longer have that privilege to speak or to type. Even doing that. Wait, so what was the question? The question is, why is this still such an issue, right?
Yeah. Why is it the culture of... I was seeing... Gosh, I think I was seeing a tweet or something of a teacher who was talking about how their school district didn't have some feature on Zoom that would allow them to like mute everybody. And so some 12-year-old kid in their class had the class on mute, so he couldn't hear what was going on with the class, but he was playing some game and just, saying every inappropriate and horrific thing, and she could not turn him off, and so had to just end the Zoom call for the whole class because he was just going nuts and he couldn't hear what was going on.
Did he not realize that the class could hear him? Well, that's so embarrassing.
He was unmuted, but he couldn't hear the class
because
he had everything to the side because he was gaming and just talking up a whole storm, and the teacher could not mute him.
Oh gosh. Well, for one, people are always braver behind a keyboard. So many of those pussy little boys I know And they're not even like little boys. They're grown-ass men, but I'm still going to call them little boys. Like the whole group of them.
They started doing it as
so
little
many
boys.
Well, that's true. But I just mean like so many of them I know wouldn't say it to my face. They would be so scared to say it to my face. And which makes me just laugh. But like people are so brave when they don't have to say it to your face. There's no like, you can't suddenly do something to them. When it comes to banning and timeouts, if it's not an IP ban, they can just go make another account or whatever, and it's fine. They can go make bot accounts, or you can have a VPN, and then it's impossible for them to truly IP ban you because you just change it with the VPN. Like you said, like it starts when, they all start when they're young. But like they're all constantly hearing it. So just like it just is a cycle of like the little kids hear it from the older and they think it's okay, so then they do it. And I don't know. And I would say some communities are way worse than others too. Like some are way more toxic than others. And it's like, does that game just attract a certain type of sicko? Like, I don't understand.
Well, and it might be that, they played some of that game, heard some of that, tried to take it to another platform, and people in that game were like, hey, man, that's not cool. Because I think that would be so much more impactful if you have a bunch of guys in the game who are saying, bro, not cool. Like, it can't just be the women who are, reacting, not reacting. It has to be everyone, but it really has to be guys, especially ones that like they respect and maybe are at a higher level or whatever. Like it has to be the alphas in the group to be like, dude, you can't talk that way to people. Cut it out. Like they're the ones who have to. And so if enough of those people, Valorant is very popular with women. And so I think that there's enough of a gender. I mean, obviously, there's still the majority are men, but I think there are enough of a women community now with Valorant, and enough men there know or play with women routinely to not be cool with a lot of stuff. So I think it's people who they and their buddies just talk smack all day and get really excited with a woman because they know that that's an easy target and that all of their buddies are going to pile on, and they don't want to piss off a guy who's really good because he might be their friend. Well,
I think there's a lot more guys maybe on Valorant than on the others that will speak up and say something and say, but not even just the guys. I mean, honestly, it's everyone. Like kids, there's kids that will say stuff. There's females. I think a lot of the females. Oh, here's another thing I've run into. This one always just blows my mind. So I think in Valorant, a lot of the females you get, they're as equally sick of the bullshit that women have to deal with as you are. So they're willing to stick with you and stick up with you. Like literally anytime women meet other women in Valorant, they're like, and they have like an immediate like love connection. Okay. Like it's just an immediate bond. But I feel like in others, you get the women who are almost worse than the guys that are like more toxic, and they're like, sometimes they're like the pick me girls, like they're trying to get the guys to like them, and they think to do that they have to put down other girls, or they're so toxic, or they kind of remind me of like some of the girls I met in engineering who just they acted very superior and rude and stuff, which then set off other guys. And like, honestly, I understand why they would be set off, because I would be set off from these girls acting like that. And I'm like, what are you you're not all that. No one is. Calm down. Like, chill. But there's just, I think that makes it worse when, like, it's not only are you having to deal with toxicity from men, but then you're also having to deal with it from your fellow women. And you're just like, it's just exhausting. Like, why is it so normalized for women to put other women down? You know?
Yeah. So FIFA launched a FIFA Women's Esports program titled Fame Her Game. And it was set up to, quote, increase visibility, build grassroots opportunities, and create a safe space for women competing in the FIFA ecosystem. So that's another one of, separating out the women to create that safe space for them, which again is debatable about maybe it would be nice to have a women-only space, but just making the current space just more co-ed and more friendly to women, whether that's by severely increasing the number of women who are playing on there or having actual ways to deal with harassment, whether that's in real time or whatever, or figuring out how to better track people across different accounts and say, hey, you have a history of acting inappropriately. I'm thinking like an HR person again, of just like progressive discipline, and let's, keep track of these derogatory marks and say, hey, you are not functioning well in this community. Figure it out. And
I wish we could do that.
I know.
I wish it was that simple. Like, I wish there was a way to really enforce that. Also, sorry, I just want to say, since you used the term grassroots, I don't know if you know what that is, but that's kind of like your, how like in sports, right? You have, clubs and stuff that people do. Okay, well, that's kind of like what grassroots is in the esports, right? It's your tier 2. It's not your professional level, but it's kind of like above just normal playing. Like, they're trying to get there, but they aren't getting there. And kind of part of the new thing in esports, like, I think it's called the grassroots phenomenon. But, like, people are tired of seeing the same old teams over and over again in the tier 1. And so they're trying to create opportunities to showcase and give, like, tier 2, tier 3 chances to, like, move up and new esports teams to form and grow.
Yeah. So there was big news coming out about one of the Call of Duty competitions that they do. They do a challenger event every year that's just a championship series where people compete on different teams. You compete against U.S. team or North America teams. If you're in North America, you compete against European teams if you're in Europe. And it's only been going on for a few years, I think 2-3 years. Maybe it started in 2020. But a woman made history as the first woman to qualify for the Call of Duty Challengers Elite Tournament. So she was on a team, sure, with 4 other guys, whatever, that's fine. But so she was the first woman on any team that qualified for this elite tournament, and she's just 22. Her name is Kels, Kels. Her full name is Kelsey Grigg, and she is Scottish, and she was a football player, and she got injured. And so she moved into esports and, has made history this year, again, at 22, and is now doing, I think, communications or something for a different team, and it's just getting nothing but accolades. And there are tons of articles about this, and it's cute because I like reading interviews from people kind of under the age of 25 because they're so cute. You know,
Yes.
they're still just really young and sweet and just excited about a
Pure.
lot of things. Pure, yeah. So she was telling that esports.gg that the support and encouragement she's received has been truly incredible. I truly hope that encourages other females to get involved. It would be good to rubbish the stereotypes that people have, especially in such a male-dominated scene. Call of Duty, of course, is quite a community of um, young men.
I was gonna say,
And
I think playing COD, I ran into a female gamer, like, dude, it was such a rare occasion. Like Valorant, at least, it's every couple games. I mean, it's not every game, but it's every few games. It's notable enough. But yeah, Call of Duty, it was just like, it felt like once a week.
it is quite a sausage fest, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And she said that Kells said there's always been some sort of stereotypes around women competing in esports. And whilst I've experienced some of that in COD, for the most part, the community has always been welcoming. So I love that that was her experience. I'm delighted that that's how she has felt. And I hope that is absolutely really inspiring. And the article continued on saying, in regards to her role in promoting Call of Duty to a female audience, she said, I would encourage any woman thinking about getting involved in Call of Duty to peruse it. I'm hopeful that qualifying for the elite is just the beginning for me, and I can continue to show I'm good enough to compete. And the eFuse director of content, Helena Malik, she was on the eFuse team. And eFuse is absolutely invested in the development of women's esports. Kel's accomplishments have been trailblazing and inspiring for women's Call of Duty. And there were just a lot of articles being written about this, being very excited about her, because again, she is so young and she qualified for this. So now there's officially, been a woman who's gone to this elite championships. And so hopefully next year there's going to be more teams with more women coming in, because I think for a lot of these teams that have never had a woman, or the woman they, haven't seen a woman at that rank or the rank from which they're pulling their new members, that first woman, it's a very breaking the glass ceiling, right? Of just saying, hey, one woman is here. She's made her first step into here. And from here on out, it's no longer it hasn't been done, so it can't be done. It's like, okay. No, we just have to figure out how to find them. It's just finding diversity in your workforce. I mean, they're there. You just have to ensure that you're looking in the right place, or your community is welcoming enough that they would want to join.
I was thinking about how you're asking, like, why I think it's so hard for women to get into that. And I think part of it is, like we were talking about, is just like opportunity. Is not that there's this like rule that women can't be on. It's just not there's not a lot of opportunity for them to join, but not only for them to join, but for them to be able to grow to get to the level to join, if that makes sense. Like, it's hard for them to get on teams to do practice scrims, or to play at that level, to be, I don't want to say be good enough, because I'm not trying to say they're not good enough, but to be able to play at that level that they could go try out to be on a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the feeder pools aren't there, or welcoming or open or whatever. And, maybe some of the teams at the lower levels, maybe they feel they don't want a woman in there because they
might think chance.
Right. They might think it would make them look weaker, or they would get harassed because they're a team with a woman in it. And so then they would face some of the harassment that women face just for having her in their midst. And so, yeah, some of those feeder pools absolutely, I think, need to. And so, and that's some of my thoughts as well, is maybe some of those feeder pools could be, you know, teams of women and could go up. And so the women could still be, you know, competing against a variety of other teams, but that could be a way to say, nope, the 5 of us ladies, we're going to get together and we're going to do this and then rise through the ranks. And then we can start splitting off and joining other teams or whatever. But I think, so maybe not at the top necessarily to have women only, but I think in the feeder pools, just to like get the start going and start really showing off what they can do. I think that's maybe where some of that could come into play.
I just had another thought. See how we're talking about how like there's the one side that's like there should be integration, you know, mixed sex team, right? And then there's the side that's like there should be separate leagues. What if you combined them, right? So maybe you had sex-specific teams, but why couldn't they compete in the same league? You know what I mean? Like if it's so hard to get women on the male teams, okay, fine. So then we have teams that are specifically women, but instead of forcing them to only be able to compete against each other, why not have it so they can compete against, I mean, literally they're equals. I mean, against other people.
Yeah. I think having,
I feel like that's more of a step in the right direction than complete separation.
Totally. I don't think we need a women's tournament. I think we need sponsoring women's team to go into normal tournaments, even sponsoring co-ed teams. I think, yes, sponsoring female teams, but I think sponsoring co-ed teams, having the companies that have teams or sponsor teams be saying, hey, you've been only men for the past 12 iterations. What's the plan? And it's always going to come down to money. So I'm not saying there should be a quota, but I think it's a question that sponsors can be asking of, are you looking? Like, have you been ignoring what's out there? Or why haven't you found any women who meet your standards? And if so, like, how can we help women train up or get to a point where they are able to meet some of the standards that they may not know about or just don't have access to?
Before you do that, I did copy her biography. I just want to shout out Trisha Sugita, I think is how you say her name. Obviously, there are other female leaders, but she's like a huge one and one that I've seen a lot of, and she's one that inspired me too. She originally was the CEO of FlyQuest. She is now the CMO of Cloud9. I think it's Cloud9, which is they're a huge esports team. They're in all of the top esports games. But so she started her career in esports, competing in and streaming for StarCraft 2. And then she kind of moved into being like an interviewer and like hosting major esports events and kind of being a caster and all of that. And this says in 2014, she joined streaming platform Azubu.tv as the global director of esports. I don't know anything about that streaming platform. I don't know if they're just specifically for esports. But she also, I think, she was a big part of League 2, if I remember right. She became one of the founding partners of Riot Games franchise LCS. I think that stands for League something.
So Azubu was a live streaming esports website. In 2017, it was shut down, succeeded by Smashcast.
Okay.
And it was founded in 2012. shuttered in 2017. Biggest game there was League of Legends.
Yeah, I was going to say, she was huge in the League of Legends, I'm pretty sure. So it was mostly just for, that's what it was focused, was esports.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been such a, I think, prominent female leader in fighting for women in esports and like showing it's possible and pushing through all the struggles and the backlash.
So now my favorite segment is the Female Developer Spotlight. So today we're talking about Aya Kyogoku, who is a name you all are likely fairly familiar with. She's a Japanese video game director and producer, and she is currently managing Nintendo's Entertainment Planning and Development Group number 5, which oversees Animal Crossing, Splatoon, and Wii Sports. So she has been a producer, director, and supervisor on Animal Crossing since 2008. She started at Atlas, which was a subsidiary of Sega, in 2000, where she was an assistant planner and assistant director.
I'm sorry. Do you know when Animal Crossing first started? Is 2008 the beginning or close to the beginning?
Animal Crossing was originally released in 2001.
Oh, okay. So it isn't much. Wow. Okay. I guess that makes sense. I just couldn't remember how old Animal Crossing was.
Yeah.
That's
Wild World was released in 2005. City Folk was released in 2008. And then New Leaf was the first game that she was really involved in. And that was released in It was announced in 2010, released in 2012.
Right. Yep. I remember that one on the Wii. Okay.
So 2003, she joined Nintendo as a scriptwriter for Legend of Zelda games, Four Swords Adventures, as well as Twilight Princess.
I love
And she
Twilight
won the
Princess.
Game Developers Choice Award for that, for her writing.
I think it was the first Zelda game on the Wii. And I don't know if it was exclusive to the Wii, but I loved it. And they did a remake of it. Before Breath of the Wild came out, they did a remake and they had an amiibo. And then if you played with the amiibo you had to like do a certain amount of stuff on the Twilight Princess game, but then you put the amiibo there and then you could bring your amiibo into Breath of the Wild and you'd have a little Link Wolf with you. That was pretty cool.
That's so cute.
Sorry for the sidetrack, but I had a Link Wolf.
Of course you did.
I did.
You seem like a wolf girl.
What do you
I know you're like a dragon girl, but
that?
like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of
them. Calling me a furry?
No, but I can understand how it would come across like that. I just feel like
I do love wolves.
I feel like in 4th grade, there were like horse girls, and there were wolf girls. I think there were, and then there were, girls who didn't really care about animals in general. But I feel like there was a certain segment of wolf girl who were a little more feral. But
I was feral, but it wasn't because I was a wolf girl. I was just feral. Always have been, always will be. It's probably why I like them. They're like my fucking people. It's okay to be feral when you're a wolf. No one's going to judge you. It's okay if you just go a little crazy sometimes. Dude, ironically, one of my dad's best friends, he had... I don't think it was full wolf. I'm pretty sure it had some like dog in it, but it was pretty wolf. Like definitely more than what is probably legal. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, if I could have a pet wolf, I'd fucking have a pet wolf. And then I'd stick him on the little... No, just kidding. Get him, boy.
How did you feel about what are they, the dire wolves in Game of Thrones?
There's dire wolves in Game of Thrones.
Are they not called dire wolves? Whatever the Stark kids have.
Oh, yeah, the wolves. They might have been called dire wolves. I mean, dire wolves were a thing. That's right. I forgot about that. I wanted to have one. I was pissed.
I only watched the first season of Game of Thrones, so that's one of the only things I know.
I just type in wolves and see what it says. It might have been dire wolves. Yeah, they were dire wolves.
Yeah, they were. Let's go.
Because I was going to say, dire wolves are like usually bigger. I think, than normal wolves. Like, they're big dicks. It's like the megalodon of wolves. Honestly, I thought I was really cool, and I was jealous, and I was like, why can't that be real? Why can't you have such a bond with an animal? That'd be so cool. The other thing, if I couldn't have had a wolf, I would have loved to have a cheetah. I thought cheetahs were so cool as a kid. And I thought wolverines were really cool. I thought it was incredible how such a tiny creature could take down a giant moose. Because I don't know if you've ever met a moose, but I've met moose in real life, and them are scary. They're nasty. They're mean. They will come for you.
I've never seen a moose, but I lived in Montana for 1.5 years, and so I've heard many, many stories about all sorts of mean moose that are just roaming.
Nasty little things. And a wolverine will just... It's dead. Gone. See
like a piranha.
Yeah, I'm a piranha. Finding Nemo. Anyways. Yeah. I think if I could have had obviously, since I can't have a dragon, it would be one of those 3 creatures that I would probably then choose from.
Okay. Wolf, cheetah, wolverine.
Yeah. And panther. But the cheetah kind of goes with the panther. The thing, though, is like the cheetahs have that extra flap of skin, which is why they're so fast, because it allows them to elongate their legs. Yeah. That's why they look kind of fat. It's because they have this like extra loose skin at the bottom. And then that's why they're
stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, shoot, that's pretty cool. And then I've always thought too, it's unfortunate, I'm allergic to fur, but like obviously since you can't have, pet cheetahs, there's what are they called? You can have like Bengals, or there's like African cats that you can get that are more wild than domesticated. And I was like, I want one of those, except I'm allergic to fur, so it'd be really awkward.
What was your favorite book series growing up?
Like what age?
11.
Is that middle school?
5th grade. Typically.
I have to think about my reading history. The issue was that I was really stupid as a kid. I was. I'm like not even joking. Like my mom actually thought I was mentally handicapped and like maybe needed to put me in a special school. Okay, this is how, which I have a really hard time learning. Like what I need to learn is a lot, and I'm a really slow processor. And so I struggled a lot as a kid because I couldn't figure out how to learn. And honestly, I thought I was the issue. And like, I'm not saying my teachers were the issue, but also like they kind of were the issue because, teachers kind of there's a standardized way that they all teach. No offense to them. It just is what it is. And it wasn't until like middle school, but mostly high school, that I finally learned what I had to do to learn. And so I struggled with reading, but I didn't struggle with reading because I feel like I've talked about this before, but when I was in kindergarten is when Harry Potter released in the US, the first book that came out in the US. And both of my parents are huge readers. I mean, we have like huge amounts of books. I have 3 massive bookcases in my room because of my reading habits. And always encouraged me to read, and they would read with me. So my mom was at Barnes and Noble, and she just happened to see the Harry Potter book, and it like just released recently, like within that week in the Barnes and Noble. And she's like, oh, cool. I'll, bring this home and we can read it. So I was able to become a really advanced reader because I was dumb at everything else. And that was like my way of escape besides sports was reading. And I was always reading with my parents, and like my dad talked to me like I was an adult. So I was always hearing words and seeing words. And so honestly, by 5th grade, this is so embarrassing, but like I was like reading like I was a high schooler. Like I was reading erotica, smut, adult books, like anything I could get my hands on, because my parents didn't limit me. They didn't always know what I was reading. But like, so I think by 5th grade, I think my mom's friends had given me the Suki Stackhouse or True Blood on HBO. I think I had started reading those. And then I had also started reading Mercedes Thompson by Patricia Briggs, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I don't
know if you
the
direction I thought we were going in, but I love to hear it.
I did read, though. I mean, I did read young adult books. I read Twilight before they were popular. I read The Hunger Games before they were popular. But they kind of bored me a little bit. Like, I still love Twilight, and I still watch it every year for the nostalgia of it, because it's just like I remember. But why were we talking
and the movies
about
are camp.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I feel like the series, whether it was like Aragon or any of those kind of series with a main animal friend or something. I was just curious to know what was kind of during your formative years.
Urban fantasy. Oh, I can answer that. Oh, if that was the question, that's easy. Urban fantasy. I loved urban fantasy. I still love urban fantasy. That's probably my favorite genre. And it's, I don't know if you know what it is, but it's like our world, right? Like it's like current day. It's like if we were in our world, but with the different reality. And so there's usually like a lot of times there's fae, vampires, werewolves, there's magic. It's like our current world if there was magic.
Have you read A Blade So Black? I think that's the first one. It's a Alice in Wonderland retelling, but like with a black woman in Atlanta. And so it's a series where she is Alice. But so there's Alice in Wonderland and she goes in and out, but she's like in Atlanta.
Oh, no, I haven't, but I've heard about it.
I've read the first and the second. The third one, it was supposed to come out a few years ago, but then like something happened with the publisher. And so I don't think it's out yet, but the first and the second are so good. Oh, the third one's going to come out in September. Oh, I'm excited. But L.L. McKinney, truly so enjoyable. So, urban fantasy, it's right there.
I like that you're trying to figure out if I liked books where you had like an animal, a pet animal. Why didn't you just ask that? The most childhood books I really remember were like Nancy Drew, Boxcar Kids or Children or something so like that.
8-year-old.
And The Magic Tree House.
Oh, Magic Tree House. Yeah. 3rd grade. No. Yeah.
And Pippi Longstocking.
3rd grade, yeah.
Those are like really all that I really remember reading for younger books. It kind of just went from, and then I kind of just skipped the in between, to be honest. I feel like I just outed myself in ways that maybe I didn't want to out myself. I remember being so young when the True Blood came out on HBO, and I so wanted to watch it. Like, I wanted to know, like, to see. And it wasn't because of the weird sexual shit, but it was just like, I wanted to see what had come to life from the books. Because like, thinking back on it, I'm like, the books were okay. But like, I loved those when I was that young. Like, I thought they were so cool. And I just started, finally, decades later, I just finally started watching True Blood on HBO. While I was sick over spring break last week, I binged the first 3 seasons. And I'm like, I remember why I fucking hated Bill. Like, I remember why I hate you, little shit. Like, I never liked Bill. I always hated Bill. I was always like, oh, Suki, just be with Eric. Just be with Eric. Just be with Eric. And I hate how they ended it. I don't even think I actually ever truly finished the last book because, spoiler alert, plug your ears if you don't want to know, the second her and Eric were done in the last book of the series, I said, F this shit, I'm out. I was like, what do you mean? He's clearly the only one ever meant for you. Bill sucks. Elsie pissed me off at some point. Quinn pissed me off. Sam pissed me off. I was like, Eric's the one. I felt like she did him so dirty. Not Suki, but the author. And I was like, you know what? I think your canon is false. I don't care if it's in your head. It's wrong. It's wrong. I have learned, though, because recently, in the past couple of years, I've been rereading a lot of like my favorite series. And there's very much a consistency in my book boyfriends. There's definitely kind of a type. There's definitely some where I'm like, ooh, that was definitely the like weird pushing agenda of like toxic masculinity is okay. And like now I'm like, nope, I don't like that at all.
Sorry, just so we're clear, were you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I was team neither. Even as a child, I thought both of them were fucking idiots. And I thought they... I'm sorry, I've started to swear in this episode. They were honestly both toxic in their own ways. And I don't really... The movies, it's so easy for me to be like, I hate both of you. I don't remember if they were both as bad. Actually, I think Edward was worse in the books than in the movies. And Jacob might be worse in the movies than he is in the books. I'm not sure about that. But like...
Well, I was reading that Stephanie Meyer had named Jacob because in the first book, he's not a romantic interest. He's just some guy. Right?
No, you definitely know that there's some... Like, you know he likes her. At the very least, in the first book, you definitely know Jacob likes Bella.
Okay. Well, maybe what I was reading was wrong, but I was reading that Stephanie Meyer named him after her brother. And like, and like the first book, the intention wasn't fully there that he would actively be the part that he like be the triangle that he was, but he became that.
I believe it. I believe that like he was definitely up in the air, but I think he was definitely like, I think at the very least you knew that he liked Bella. Whether that went into anything else, whether he acted on it, you knew he had at least a childhood crush on her and potentially still seeing her had a crush on her. But like I don't think it was necessarily clear that it was going to become more than that. Honestly, I feel like from the first book, she even could have taken it and he could have just become her brother from another mother. And I think that would have been... Yeah.
We could have just fully friend-zoned him and gotten into just like, all right, he's our bro. Do.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly... I don't think I was ever more pissed as a child than when he was like, I imprinted on your daughter. Like, even as a child, I knew there was something sick and wrong about that. Like, I threw the book. I wanted to rage quit. That was when I definitely, like, there was no Team Edward or Team Jacob. Like, if I had even teetered for a moment, it was in that moment that I was like, you're done. You're done. You're done. I don't care how hot Taylor Lautner is. Jacob, you sicko.
Or how much of a wolf he is. Yes, yes, yes.
See, that really wouldn't have swayed me over a vampire. I don't necessarily prefer vampires over werewolves or werewolves over vampires.
I mean, that's fair enough.
Can I have a pet werewolf, though? Is that ethical?
When you say pet, could you have a friend who is also a werewolf?
That I keep locked in my basement?
Okay, but why would you need to keep them locked in the basement? That's my question. Like, why can't you just, like, have a nice friend who then turns into a werewolf and lets you pet its head? Like, why must they be in your basement?
Because I like it down there. We really de-escalated.
Okay, we're pulling it back together. Okay.
Wait a minute. I would just like to say I don't feel like I was a wolf girl anyways. I know we went through all of that, but I felt really personally attacked when you were like, so you're a wolf girl.
A, that was not an attack. B, that was not intended to be an attack. If it was an attack, it was an attack. It was not intended to be an attack. And B, I don't believe you. This whole conversation has just led me further down the path of, yeah, she was a forest wolf girl.
Gabe's a wolf girl.
Gabe's a wolf girl.
You.
I mean, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong.
I'd just like to say, which of us has bunny ears on? Which of us has actually got some animal ears on? Because it ain't me.
Yeah, I think my sparkly bunny ears definitely scream out wolf girl.
No, but it definitely screams out something.
I think there are girls who are into fairies. I was probably a bit of a fairy girl.
Dude, fairies are awesome.
Right?
I love fairies. Can I just be a girl? Why do I have to have a label like wolf girl? Can I just be a girl? You look so done.
I'm gonna change your name. I'm gonna put your label as wolf girl, and there's nothing you can do about it. And everyone's gonna be like, "What's going on?" Until they get to this part.
That's so messed up. Stay tuned through the whole episode to find out why.
Maybe I'll just cut this whole part out and just leave you as wolf girl.
That's awful. Don't you dare. That's even more messed up.
Just for fun.
Just for funsies. Just finish your spotlight. Just let me get out of here. I don't want to be here anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, wipe them damn tears.
So, Aya Kyogoku. So, like we just said, she joined Nintendo in 2003 for Zelda. In 2008, she joined the Animal Crossing family. She was a sequence director on City Folk, where she was responsible for more script writing and then elements related to non-player character behavior and dialogue. So she was just doing a lot of writing. And she was the co-director of New Leaf, which, as we mentioned, came out in 2012. And the kind of thought process behind it from Nintendo was that they were hoping to get back to the series' roots with the game. When she became co-director of New Leaf, this was making her the first woman to direct a video game at Nintendo Entertainment Analysis and Development. So in her department, she was the first woman to direct a video game. She and her producer decided to hire a team that was half female after she noted that she was frequently the only woman on development teams. And then I had a quote from her that said, "When you're trying to create something that will appeal to many types of people, I have experienced how beneficial it is to have diversity on your team." Which makes sense to me if you're trying to create a game that's going to appeal to a wide variety and a diverse audience, making sure you have diverse people in the room creating the game. Seems logical. Makes sense to me. And there was a Nintendo developer chat where they asked her for a message to women who would like to work in the game industry. And she responded, "If you want to, please join. I'll be so happy if we can work together," which I just thought was cute. So the approach to Animal Crossing New Leaf was different. Not only did they want to make the game for both men and women, they wanted it to be made by men and women. And during the first 3 weeks of sales of New Leaf, the primary players were 19 to 24-year-old girls. So they did a great job. And so she really credits the diversity of her team for New Leaf's success. There was an article that came out in 2016 titled Aya Kyogoku, Nintendo's Rising Star and Secret Weapon. And the article said, while she remains the most powerful woman within the Nintendo organization, Kyogoku opened the door for many other Japanese female developers, stressing the need for more diverse teams that bring fresh points of view to the design board. As gaming slowly becomes an equally acceptable hobby for both genders, the industry is becoming equally accessible as well, with Kyogoku leading the pack. In 2019, she was named as the manager of the Nintendo Group Number 5, which was a position previously held by Hisashi Nogami before he got promoted to the deputy general manager of that department. She directed New Horizons, which, as we all know, launched in 2020 with incredible success and adoration, and that was not co-directed. She did that by herself. And she received, obviously, a lot of praise for broadening the series' appeal beyond the typical teenage male demographic. And there were a lot of changes and adjustments they made to New Horizons, where they allowed a lot of character customization and clothing items and hairstyles that weren't restricted by gender. And so players had a lot more options on how to represent themselves in the game. And Kyogoku said that this level of fine-tuning the character is not just about gender, but relates to the team's overall feeling that society is shifting to valuing a lot of people's different identities. We basically wanted to create a game where users didn't really have to think about gender, or if they wanted to think about gender, they're also able to. So you could kind of pick and choose what you were interested in doing, what colors, what designs, what look you wanted to have. There was an article.
Didn't they do a better job about having like ethnic hair too? And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They did a lot of work, especially with, various drops that were coming out over time and updates of adding a whole variety and things to buy in the game using not real money, but like in-game money to be able to buy a whole bunch of different hairstyles as well. That I think there was an entire pack that was specifically different types of more diverse hairstyles.
Yep.
There was an article in The Verge about New Horizons saying she particularly wanted to shift the way players interact with the world. When we thought about changing those relationships between the user and the animals, we thought, well, what if we take away the village? And so putting a player on a deserted island is the solution we came up with, which is just so fun that they were like, okay, well, we changed this. What if we like maintain the relationships and then just change the environment? I'm sure Sims and any of those kind of games also led to some of that inspiration. And Kyogoku has become the co-producer of the Animal Crossing series as a whole. So she's moved on from director and moved into a co-producer of the whole series because she has been so instrumental to its success and its growth.
I don't know a whole lot about Animal Crossing, but I did like that the new one, their newest one, Horizons or whatever, like that, like you really owned the village, like not owned it, but like you made it. You know what I mean? You just coming to a completely blank canvas, a deserted island, and like what would you do with a deserted island? How would you populate it? How would you design it? What would you try to do for the island? I really like that about it.
Yeah, and just the care and keeping of your villagers and the design and the creativity aspects and the just kind of tranquil joy that you can get from doing your little fishing and doing your little tasks and not getting penalized for not doing them. Because I think that's what a lot of real-time games, you feel like you're missing out on so much if you don't play every day or you don't play during certain times of the day. You know, so like, yes, you won't get fish if you don't play. Like, there's some fish and some things that are only found during certain times of the day, blah, blah, blah. And like some specific things, you know, Sunday mornings, you can get turnips or whatever. But if you can always make more money. You know, there's not a lot of time constraints on when you can do things, so you don't feel rushed and you don't feel stressed out. Which I just really appreciate.
I do too. Well, okay, this is building off of something you originally said when you responded back, but you were having to take care of your island, though. There was like the whole weed system and like picking up weeds, and weeds would spawn. You could sell the weeds, and like the game encouraging you to take care of your island. But like, yeah, like you said, there wasn't the pressure that some of these other kind of games have, and the stress and anxiety of like you had to. And sorry. Worst case scenario, if you did really want to play during a certain time, you can change your Wii's month and time and day and all of that. Or not your Wii, sorry, your Switch to do that. But yeah. Don't tell anybody I told you that. It's a secret.
It's illegal.
How could you? Well, I feel like we started off so strong in this episode. We had a very clear path, and then I feel like you tricked me into exposing things the world wasn't supposed to know. So, you know what? That's it. I'm never coming back. I'm done. This is it. This is the end. I'm over it. Yeah, you go ahead and you freaking laugh about it. You laugh. And you know what? This is it. I'm done. I'm ending it. Where I'm supposed to say, if you have a developer, game, or side quest you want us to talk about, or any localized, anonymized gossip, you simply must tell someone. Let us know on Twitter at nosidequests, or email us at nosidequests@gmail.com. But I'm not coming back, so it doesn't matter if you have that, because I'm done. The world knows too much about me. But if you'd like to see us while she exposes me during the podcast, we do post each episode with video to our I Don't Believe in Side Quests YouTube channel. If you want to, I can't. You can find me at nenyaadamas on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. And you can find Lauren at @sweetie_patat on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. And that's it. That's the end. Goodbye. Have a good one.
Bye.